So we are now only 4 months away from graduation. 4 months away from graduation. That's really exciting. Yes, applause for that. Woo! How many people in this room are 18? How many people will be 18 in the next 4 months? All right, good news. Good news. This talk today specifically applies to you. Specifically. Does anybody know what happens specifically when you turn 18? You're a legal adult. Well, we have a group of speakers here to talk to you today about the great part about being an adult, but also the consequences of being an adult. So please give your undivided attention to our panel of speakers today. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Marty Kleinfelder, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Claremont County. And I'd like to welcome you to Now That You're 18. This is a program that is designed to give young people some information about voting and why it is important to your community of Goshen, Claremont County, and the United States. We'd also like to cover some information that once you are 18, how you will deal with situations, how they will be different from when you are 17 years old. Just a little bit about the League before we start. The National League of Women Voters was founded by Carrie Chapman Catt in 1920 during the convention of the National American Women's Suffrage Association. The convention was held just 6 months before the 19th Amendment in the United States was ratified, giving women the right to vote after 42 years of struggle. And gentlemen, you need to know that the League of Women Voters is for men also. We have many men in our organizations, and many of them hold political office.
Hi, I'm Christine Cornelius. I'm also with the League of Women Voters. Since 1920, the League has been an activist, grassroots organization whose leaders believed that voters should play a critical role in the democracy. The League of Women Voters is strictly nonpartisan, meaning we don't support one political party over the other, and neither supports nor opposes candidates for office at any level of government. At the same time, the League is wholeheartedly political, working to influence policy through education and advocacy. It is the original grassroots citizen network directed by the consensus of its members across the country. In October 2006, the League of Women Voters created vote411.org as a one-stop shop for election-related information. It provides nonpartisan information for the public with both general and state-specific information on aspects of the political process. So when you go to vote, if there's plenty of names out there. You don't know what's going on. You don't know which candidate stands for what you want to. You can you go to this website, you plug in your address. It'll bring up all of the issues that are on your ballot and all of your candidates that are on the ballot, and it'll tell you. We ask them questions. We say, how do you stand on this? And they'll give us the answers, and we'll put them in. And we don't choose for you. It gives you the right to choose. You can see the answers right next to each other, which candidates you like and which ones you don't.
There is a primary this May, and if you are 17 years old but will be 18 by Election Day on November 8th, you can vote for candidates. You cannot vote on the issues, but you can vote on candidates because those names will reappear in November. And you'll get a special ballot when you go to the polls to do this.
Yeah. So if you're 17 and we're actually going to have registrations here at the end of our talk here. So make sure you don't think just because I won't be 18 in May that you don't need to do this. Go ahead and register so you can vote in this election. Right now I'm going to introduce everybody else on the panel. Next to me is Joe Braun. He's an attorney at the law firm of Strauss and Troy. He's also the president of the Claremont County Public Library Board of Trustees. Next to him is Lisa. She's the manager of your local Goshen branch of the Claremont County Library. And finally at the end is Bob Rose. He's a Goshen Township Police Chief. I'm going to next pass it over to Lisa. She's going to let you know about some of the services the library offers.
Thank you so much for having us come out this afternoon to speak to you. And I have to say, I became a little sentimental as I drove over here this afternoon, and I'll tell you why. 18 years ago, I became the children's librarian at the Goshen Branch Library. And more than likely, if you grew up in this area and you had a parent or a grandparent or a babysitter that brought you to the library, I probably read stories to you. So I'm really happy to be here today to see you on your next phase of life. And I'd like to just share, I've been given 2 minutes, so I'm going to read down my list of services that the library offers to you. So, and I want you to know, we're here for you. The library is your library. So please make use of it. If you like to read off of your devices, you can apply today for an e-card. If you just go to our website, ClaremontLibrary.org, and you can have access to digital and downloadable items, including ebooks, streaming videos, electronic resources such as databases, and the ability to request materials from our catalog. After you submit this form, you'll receive a library card via email, which you can use immediately. You'll also receive a physical library card in the mail. And the really awesome thing about e-cards is you can never have a late book, so no fines. If you would rather upgrade that card to a full access card, that would allow you to check out things such as books, CDs, DVDs, and all you have to do is visit your library with a photo ID and something with your current address on it. And we have public computers. If you need to do online applications for school or job applications, we have laptops that you can use in the library. We also have resume templates that are available through our databases. If you're getting your resume and your cover letters together, we can help you with that. We have printers, we have copiers, scanners, fax machines. We have books about colleges, information about what degrees they offer, and what scholarships and funding that these various colleges can offer to you. We have SAT, GED, ASVAB study guides for those of you who are interested in joining the military. We have a vast CD and DVD collection, and that's a really great way to save money because you can check out these CDs and the DVDs. They don't cost a penny. We also have portable Wi-Fis. So if you live in an area that you don't get good service, you can check out this Wi-Fi, plug it in at your house, and it creates good service for you. Your cards are good at any of our 10 branches. We have 10 branches in the system. You can check out in any of the branches. You can return at any of our 10 branches. And we also cooperate with over 20 other library systems in the state of Ohio. So access to material is limitless. So enjoy the next few months of your senior year. Congratulations to all of you, and I hope to see you at the library.
All right, so, okay, I don't really need it. All right, so once again, how many of you are 18? Raise your hand. Okay, everybody seemed to get all excited when we were asking who's 18, and people seem to be excited about getting to turn 18. But let me ask you a question. Why are you excited about turning 18? Why do you think that makes a difference in your life? That's something that a lot of people think, oh, when I turn 18, I can do anything I want. Or when I turn 18, I'm an adult. And what does being an adult mean? I don't know about you, but when I grew up, I remember my mom and dad saying, I don't care how old you are, as long as you live under my roof. And then the rest, they still tell me what to do. So the reason I ask you that is because everybody gets excited about wanting to turn 18. But the question is, why are you excited about getting to turn 18? How many are excited because now, how many of you have jobs? How many of you work at like Skyline or anywhere, just places? Okay, you all have jobs? So you're excited about getting to pay income taxes on everything you earn. Is that what you're excited about? No, I can tell you're not excited about that. But that's just one of the many things that we're going to talk about that being 18 is. When you're 16 when you're 15 and you've got a part-time job, or you're babysitting or doing things like that, that income the government doesn't take a piece of. But once you turn 18, guess what? You're an adult. The government gets to take a little bit of that, and they take it away from you because you're now paying income taxes on the money that you earn. Some of the other things. How many of you have cell phones? Everyone? Almost everyone? All right. If you don't have cell phones, it could be computers or other things. In the past, when you've had a cell phone, who signs up for that service for you? Anybody? Mom and Dad? Now you get to sign those documents, and you are responsible for the things that you do now that you're 18. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today as part of our presentation. In the past, I won't ask, but if anyone's ever had to go to court, and you've had to stand in front of a judge for some reason, I'm sure none of you have, but if you do, how many times did your parents go with you, and when you were in trouble or you're talking to the judge, your mom or your dad said, "Judge, I just want to say something on your behalf." Well, now the judge is going to say, "Sit down." They're an adult. I don't care what mommy or daddy have to say. I want to hear what you have to say. So in the past, your parents were able to do a lot of things for you. They signed documents for you. They entered into agreements for you. They made excuses for you. They do all the things that parents do. And everyone was very excited at the beginning of the presentation when they asked you, "Are you 18? Are you going to be 18? But what I will tell you is that while turning 18 is exciting, it also brings a whole slew of responsibilities that you may not have been aware of. And we're gonna kind of go through those topics today and talk about them. Some of them are great. Don't get me wrong. As you grow up, having some independence is great. But with independence comes responsibility. And it's very difficult. I'm not sure how many of you feel like you could right now be out on your own. And when I say be out on your own, I mean things like pay for a mortgage, pay for kids, maybe pay for a spouse, pay for all of your bills. Because right now we have parents that do those things for us. But at some point in time, the law decided there's an age where we're going to say, okay, this is the cutoff, and from this point forward, you're an adult, at least in the eyes of the law. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things today. And let me start through. One of the first things we're going to talk about, and we're all going to chime in a little bit on this, but something happened on TV last night. Did anybody happen? If you had your TV on any channel last night, unmistakably you saw something on your TV. Does anyone know what that was? The president was on TV. So I will say this. Some people were very excited about the things that they heard on TV. Some people were not excited about the things they heard on TV. But what's interesting about those things that were said on TV, or the laws that are being passed in our country generally, is the government has now decided that those of you sitting at these tables, upon reaching the age of 18, you get to have a voice as to what happens in our government. Which means, if you flipped the TV last night, I think all of us probably said we didn't want to listen to that long speech. But if you happen to hear something that you liked, you can make a difference. You can continue those types of things. If you heard something you didn't like last night on TV, you have the opportunity to make a difference. And one of the first things that we're going to talk about is the fact that by reaching the age of 18, you get to vote. And I think voting is something that's really exciting. Very few people think about, and I'm sure your history teachers and government teachers have told you, there's people in other countries who died just so that they could have the right to vote. Our country has gone to war so that other people in those countries can have the right to vote. However, does anyone have any idea what the average election in Claremont County, the percentage of people that actually vote? Someone take a guess. 62? Any other numbers? Would you know that a great turnout in Claremont County is 24%? That's a great turnout in an election. And in some countries, as I said, they've gone to war for the right to have the right to cast a vote. So that's something that that you want to think about. Anyone else want to add anything on voting? Okay. So voting is very important on a whole bunch of fronts. Another thing, just to bring up voting for just one more second. One of the things I observed when I came in here is the fact that you have a very nice high school. You probably take it for granted because you come here every single day. But you have video screens in your lobby. You have tables and furniture and things like that, which a lot of school districts don't have some of those luxuries. But what I would point out is all of the things that are in this building, the fact that you have administrators and teachers who are very qualified, all the money to buy those things and pay those salaries comes from levies. And the only way that a levy gets passed is through people voting on it. So that's something else that in the future you'll have the ability to make the decision, are we going to fund things like this? Are we going to fund programs that right now benefit you? So that's something else to think about. It also indirectly affects Chief Rose. The fact that he has the ability to have police cruisers so that he can respond, and the fact that Goshen can provide fire and life squad services. Those are all funded by levies, and you in this room now have the ability to cast a vote to either make those happen or not make those happen. The other thing that's of interest is now that you're 18, you can actually be called to jury duty. Has anyone ever seen a crime show on TV, like a mystery, and you thought about the fact that, did they do it? Did they not do it? You now have the ability to actually hold in the palm of your hand someone else's future. And what I mean by that is, if someone were to commit a murder or be accused of committing a murder, you all now have the ability to decide, does that person get to stay free or do they go to jail? That's a pretty big responsibility. And only because of the fact that you had a birthday and turned 18 do you have the ability to affect that. So that's something that you probably take for granted, is that you get the ability to go to jury duty. So that's something else to think about. What else do we have? Right. You want to talk a little bit about that? All right, I'm going to let Chief Rose start, and then we'll weigh in on a little bit about what it means to have the privilege. It's not a right, it's a privilege to drive, and he'll explain to you how you could lose that privilege, and because you're no longer a minor, you actually can lose it for long periods of time.
Joe said something a little bit earlier about being 18 now. Mommy and Daddy don't stand next to you in court if you end up in court, but I think it's really, really important to point out that the best thing to do is stay out of court altogether. And always remember this as you go through life. You're young. You're going to be with friends that want to do something stupid. If it seems like it's wrong, if it seems like it's not the right thing to be doing, it's probably illegal. In fact, it's more than likely illegal. So always live by that philosophy. If your friends are at McDonald's and it's, hey, let's take the napkin dispenser here with us, does that seem like it's wrong? Yes, it's theft. So don't fall into that trap. Don't be an accessory to that kind of behavior, and be a leader. Stand up to your friends to keep them out of trouble and say, you know what, that napkin dispenser is just fine where it's at, and none of us need to get our college screwed up or whatever our ambitions are. Maybe to go into the military, maybe to have some sort of law enforcement or first EMS fire career, all those things. Who gave me this crud, by the way? Which one of you was it? When we hire policemen, FBI agents, DEA, paramedics, firemen, all those important jobs, we look at your backgrounds. So, when we're looking to hire a new police officer, we want to talk to their teachers in high school. What kind of a student were they? Were they honest? Were they sincere individuals? Or were they troublemakers? Do I want a troublemaker? Heck no. So what you do right now in your lives really affects your whole life. It affects your careers. It affects your abilities to get into college. So stay out of court by always doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. So if your friends are leading you down a path, hey, let's go, I got this baseball bat, let's go hit some mailboxes. Does that seem like it's wrong? Yes. So it's illegal too. So don't fall into those traps, guys. Specific to driving, now that you're 18, how many beers can you drink before you drive? Big fat zero, exactly. Not only is drinking and driving at your age illegal as underage consumption, you've heard that, right? It's underage consumption, but also you can't have any alcohol in your system and get behind the wheel at all, even if you're not impaired by alcohol. So it's two separate crimes. Drinking and driving, impaired driving is a huge problem. And it's interesting because now I don't speak as much about alcohol as I need to speak about drug abuse. Specifically that people are using pills, they're smoking weed, they're shooting heroin, and they're getting behind the wheel. So in today's world, what we find in law enforcement is a majority of the OVIs. You've heard it called DUI. OVI is the term we use now. It's called operating a vehicle impaired. A majority of the arrests we make are not for alcohol-related offense. It's because they're under the influence of marijuana, they've taken pills, they've done some sort of drug. And that's a huge, huge problem. They're every bit or more dangerous than the typical drunk driver. They are terrible. We had one here in the last 2 weeks that we asked for a urine sample at the office after we arrested this individual for driving under the influence of drugs. Take him to the station. We asked for a urine sample. He agrees. Okay, so when he is in it's a prisoner toilet area with the officer watching from a distance, he literally falls asleep while he's peeing and pees up the wall of our building. It's that bad, guys. These drugs are terrible. So if you're at a party and your friends make a poor choice and use some sort of drug or alcohol, do not get in a car with them. Stop them from getting in a car. This is a big deal. It could be a family member or a friend of yours that they run into, okay? So that's a long way of saying don't use drugs and drive, and don't drink and drive. Very, very, very important. Let's talk about what happens if you do this and you cause a crash, for example. And you're under the influence of alcohol in this case. You're going to get an underage consumption charge because you're not old enough to be drinking at all. You're going to get an OVI charge. So the underage consumption, you could go to jail for 6 months. The OVI, you can go to jail for 6 months. That's a year now. And in addition to many, many civil penalties. If you hit somebody and you hurt them, not only civil in that case, it's vehicular assault. So your whole life can change after having consumed alcohol and driving or consumed drugs and driving. Pills, marijuana, any of that stuff is operating a vehicle impaired. Don't do it. Don't let your friends do it, okay? Very, very important. Very important. You want to comment on that, Joe?
Yeah.
Civilly and such.
So I'll add on to that. As awful as it sounds, him talking, when the chief tells you about the fact that you're going to have all these criminal penalties and financial penalties, I'll tell you something else that can happen now that you're 18. And in fact, I'll give you a real life example from a community right here in this area. It's been 4 years ago. There was a prom here in the local area, and someone decided to have a party, and the parents thought they were doing the correct thing. They collected everybody's keys, they put them in a basket, and everybody was in the basement. They were consuming alcohol down there. Everybody was having a good time, breaking the law, because it's not true that you can drink in your own house if you're locked in there. It has to be, there's a lot of rules about that. However, parents thought everybody was great. Everybody was going to drink. They were going to fall asleep, wake up the next morning, have pancakes, and go home. The problem was that one of the couples there got into a fight, boyfriend, girlfriend. And while the parents were sleeping, the guy went upstairs, found the basket, got the keys out, and said, I'm out of here. I'm going home. And so his girlfriend followed with him, and they ended up getting into his car. He was going to take her home because they were fighting. And he went down the street, and it was a T intersection, and instead of turning left as he needed to go to his house, he went straight into an oak tree with the car. And as a result of that, he was just fine. But his girlfriend died. She hit the tree, went into it. I shouldn't say she died. She actually lived. She can't speak, can't walk, can't leave a bed. her life is now confined to a bed. So she didn't die physically. I would say that she died in many other ways. And as a result of that, what's interesting, the boy was 18. That's a key factor. So yes, as a result of that, he got sued. But in addition to that, his parents got sued. And a huge judgment ensued after that. The people that had the party got sued. Everybody got sued because lawyers like me, we're paid to sue people. And as a result of that, one thing that people didn't think about is that the parents that hosted that party, they had 3 younger siblings. They ended up losing their house as a result of that civil judgment that was entered in that case because they had that party, they hosted that party. It's a fact. You can go and check the bankruptcy filings. The kid, he was just 18. What did he have to take? Well, what they ended up doing, because you're an adult, you're responsible now, you have all these obligations. They ended up getting a judgment against that kid, as I would say, not the legal adult. And the first time that he went out and got a job and got a paycheck, a huge chunk of his paycheck was cut in half because he had to pay a civil judgment as a result of it. So when you think about the consequences of your action, it's multi-leveled and it's multi-tiered. So the decisions that you make today really do have a big impact on the things that take place later in life.
And when it comes to questions, especially with a lot of these legal issues, please don't tell us specifically, like, I did this and I want to know what will happen. Keep things in the hypothetical, okay? Because we don't want to get anybody here in trouble, so just keep that in mind.
Okay, so the question is, you or somebody you know, you're asking for a friend, right? Was a juvenile. They turned 18 and they're dating someone who's younger than them. Correct? How much younger? What's the age difference? 2 years? 1 year? 3 years? Okay. Specifically, you're asking about sex, right? No. Alcohol? No, you're fine. Yeah. You're good. Don't worry about that at all. An adult can date a juvenile as long as the separation is not ridiculous. You follow me? There are specifics in the book, but we're talking 2 or 3 years apart here. You're fine. Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about that. And by the way, you can never, if you send a picture out of yourself, you can never ever get it back. Even if you feel like it's deleted, it gets a screenshot or something like that. I know that's probably not what we were talking about, but I do want to make that point that be real careful what you send out because that kind of stuff can haunt you tomorrow or years from now, okay? I hope I answered your question. Do you have any more to add?
Well, I'll add to that. We took it in a slightly different direction than where you were taking it, but I'll add something about the sexting because that's a new law in Ohio, and this is a very new area of the law. But to your point, if you're dating someone, if you're 18 and you're dating someone who's 15, or hypothetically possibly someone that's 16, depending, because it's not about consent at that point, it's about being a juvenile. So actually, if you're 16 years old, your boyfriend is 16 and you're 18, 2 years is not a long distance. However, because you became an adult, if one person were to send a photo that was of them undressed or engaging in some kind of activity where they're undressed, and the person that received it is 18 and the person who sent it is 16 or vice versa, what you need to know is that you could be charged. I'm not going to say you will, but what I will say is you can be charged. And if you don't believe that that's a problem, I will give you an example from Mason High School where there was an incident where that exact thing happened. There was a photo that was circulated to probably 50 people. And of the 50 people, 14 of them happened to be of the age of 18, and they were all charged with having on their telephone child pornography. So as a result of that, what could be the consequence is you could be labeled a Tier 1 sexual predator in Ohio. So that will affect you for the rest of your life. So yes, I think there are some things where it can affect you in some ways, but as the chief said, you have to go back to the circumstances and whether you're being responsible. You should know that the age of consent in Ohio is 16 years of age. So that's something else that's important to keep in mind. But the circumstances matter. And so I do think that, courts apply a common sense standard when it comes to these things. So I think that that's something that you should think about. I'll give you an example from right next door in Loveland. I remember a few years ago, there was two people. One of them was 18. He was working at a Subway shop, and his girlfriend was 15. And the police rolled up on them in a car in the parking lot. They had just gotten off work. It was raining, and they were quite surprised when the officer knocked on the window, and they were doing something that they shouldn't in the car. In that particular instance, the male was charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So you forget about the fact that a small age difference could make a difference in your life. So I do think that that's an example of where it can make a difference. Was there another question? How many people on the panel have ever been called to jury duty? How many have served? I can't.
I've been called one time, and I'm 41 years old.
Yeah.
I've never been called.
And you've been called 3 times?
3 times, and I'm 53. But I was not able to serve. You can, if you're a full-time student, you can ask to not have to serve because that could interrupt classes. Oh, sorry. And then also, I was nursing my babies the other 2 times. So if you're a nursing mother, you can sometimes get out because that would interrupt your child's feeding schedule.
If you are called or are able to do it, I encourage you to do it. It is a wonderful experience. You learn a lot. And once you have actually served on a jury, you will not be called for 2 years. If you are, you can tell them I've served within 2 years, and they will select somebody else. I think Claremont County is one of the safest counties. I've been called several times and never got to serve.
You do get paid a little bit too, so it's not a great deal of money, but you do get paid.
Yeah, so I will say, as someone who's had to select juries before here in Claremont County, anybody who has served with jury duty, I've had clients call me and ask me to get them out of jury duty, and I refuse to do it. And I say that because it's very difficult to find people who are willing to serve on juries because everyone's always looking for a reason not to. However, what I will tell you is if you have the opportunity to serve on a jury, it's one of the most fascinating things you will ever do in your entire life. And the reason for that is because you're literally put in a room with somewhere between 8 and 12 other people, and you're asked to deliberate the fate of another person. And it's an awesome responsibility, even if it's over something like a car accident or whether it's something like a criminal violation. And it's a huge responsibility, and I think it's great that if you get that opportunity, you should do it.
If you are called and it's not a good time for you, I was a teacher. They called me for the first week of school. Not a good time for a teacher to be out of the classroom. I called and said, could I reschedule? And I rescheduled for my spring break. So you can reschedule, and they're usually pretty flexible if you let them know in plenty of time.
All right, I think we need to move over to some more questions. I'm sorry, to some more panels.
Were there any other quick questions? All right, we'll keep moving then. One of the other things, and that I'll talk about, I'll let the chief talk a little bit about military service and the draft and that responsibility, but one of the other things that I think are out there are contracts. Remember when I asked you how many of you had cell phones? How many of you right now have to pay your own cell phone bill? So now, in contrast to that, how many of you have cell phones? A lot more of you have cell phones than pay your own bill. One of the things that's interesting is, right now, if you don't pay your own bill, your parents usually pay your own bill for you because you're either on their plan or they just do that for you. Now that you're 18, if you don't pay your bills, and a cell phone bill included because you're now responsible for those debts on your own, they can come after you. They can cut off your service. They can also put you into bankruptcy, meaning now that you're 18, you can incur debt. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you go by right now, even though some of you have jobs, if you go to Best Buy or you go somewhere else and you buy, let's say, a television for your room, or you buy yourself an Apple Watch or a cell phone or something like that, and you enter into an agreement at Best Buy where you finance it, You can't sign that agreement. Your parents have to sign for you. However, now that you're 18, they're going to ask you to sign that form, and they're going to come after you if you don't pay those bills. They're not going to come after mommy and daddy. So that's something else to think about. That goes for credit cards as well. I don't know if any of you have your own credit cards, but that's something else to think about. Now that you're 18, you're actually creating a credit history for yourself. And even though it seems like a long time away, once you're married, once you decide to buy a house, once you decide to maybe buy your second or your third car way down in life, the decisions that you make right now at age 18 are going to affect your credit history, which is unbelievable because you're probably thinking that's so far away in life. So I'll tell you that you are now developing your own credit history. So that's something a lot of people don't think about when they think about turning 18. The other thing is that you're eligible for the military. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Or I know you want me to. Okay, I'll just point out that it used to be that if you were a male, you would say, "Oh my, I could be chosen for the draft." But now, both men and women could be eligible for military service in our country and could be eligible for the draft. And you may say, like I did growing up, because I went to Milford and I would sit there and think, "Oh, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to go wrong." But what I have to tell you is with the blink of an eye, we could be in a war. With the blink of an eye, another 9/11 could happen or some kind of attack, and they immediately start calling people into military service. So I would tell you that, again, the things that you see on TV could immediately impact you because you may be thinking, I'm going to college or I'm going to vocational school or I want to go work in a trade right away, and your life could be taken onto a different track through military service. I did not have the honor and privilege of serving in the military. Chief Rose, you did not either? Did any of you, by any chance? No, I did not have that, but I will tell you there are many people that do have that opportunity by choice, and it's possible that you could have that privilege and that opportunity and it not be your choice. So that's something to think about, and that's all, again, because you simply had an 18th birthday. Is that our time?
That's it.
Do a wrap-up?
All right, sorry we're out of time. If you look in the back of the booklet that you have there, you'll see phone numbers that you can call on many, many topics. You may not think you need them today, but hold on to it. You may want them in the future. And we'll come down for those who would like to register to vote.